Okay, that's no more fooling around. We're actually on the air now.
We are.
There's Sharon Moriwaki to my left, Ray Starling to her left, and we're here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, which we celebrate every Wednesday and more. And today we're talking about what is the Hawaii Public Benefits Fund anyway? And for that discussion, we have Jim Flanagan, Public Benefits Fee Administrator, Contract Manager, who actually works for the PUC. And he is he works with Hawaii Energy.
He's the contract manager.
He's the contract
that,
manager.
Oversees our program.
Oversees Hawaii Energy. And
on behalf of the PUC.
On behalf of the PUC. And boy, this is all together now, right? We got everybody in the room.
He checks them out to make sure they're honest and doing everything right. Is that right?
That's true.
Okay, this is going to be a real reality test, right? Okay, but before we do that, we're going to get into a discussion, as I wrote down, what is the Hawaii Benefits Fund anyway? And then, of course, there's the question of who is Jim Flanagan anyway? But we'll get to both of those things right after we hear the negawatt moment from Ray.
Oh,
good. All right, well, as you know, we try to do a negawatt moment at the beginning of each of these shows. And today we're going to talk about something that's very important, especially if you're a small business or a restaurant out there on any of the islands except Kauai. Kauai does not participate in the program right now. But if you're a small business, Schedule G, or a restaurant, the program actually offers free lighting installation for anyone who would like to partake. All you have to do is go to our website, hawaiienergy.com, and or call our office, and we can connect you with a certified lighting installer that has been approved to actually come in, assess what lighting upgrades they can do for you, and basically once you give permission and or have your landlord give permission, then the contractor will come in and completely install the best efficiency lighting that's out there today, and make sure that the small businesses take advantage of what efficiency can do for them.
Oh, that's a huge benefit.
Is that totally free? Totally free?
It is totally free, and it's paid for by the Public Benefits Fee, which funds our program. And essentially, the lighting installations, especially for small businesses that have a lot of hours where the lights are on, it's such a great thing that we couldn't get people to actually do it. Couldn't get small businesses to take the time out to actually put in new lighting.
Small businesses work so hard.
They do, and they're focused on making money. But actually, they don't fully understand that saving a kilowatt hour is a great way to make money on the bottom line. So basically, the state under the Public Benefits Fee Administrator is actually offering free lighting upgrades that come out of and are paid for by all of the ratepayers that participate, including the businesses that are taking part in this. So it's a great thing. It's one of the very first things you should do. Lighting has always been a big player in saving energy, and there's still a lot of people out there that have old, inefficient lighting.
Yeah. So two questions come to mind. What is a small business, and how do you define that?
That's a good question.
It's actually, small business is anybody who's on Schedule G, which is one of the tariffs. If you are on the Schedule G tariff, you automatically can apply for the small business upgrade. And also a restaurant, whether you are on Schedule G or some higher level schedule, restaurants have lots of lighting and lots of hours that they have the lighting on, and those equal lots of savings if you can upgrade the lighting.
Huge.
Great.
Second question.
Two questions today.
Two questions. Well, you may have some from Sharon. Let it be said that she is not without her questions. So suppose I do this, and I sign up. I guess I can sign up on the web for it, on the net.
Yeah, you can, yes, that's a good place to start. There are instructions on how you go about it. And we need to get you connected with one of our certified installers.
Okay, so now you're going to send them down, and you're going to change out all my bulbs, all my old bulbs.
Yes, all the bulbs that you will allow us to change out.
Okay,
we
fair.
have occasionally
They don't want to
been
do
in,
it.
They say the back room back there, don't bother with that.
Yeah, or they got dim bulbs, you know, dimmable bulbs that they.
Right.
But suppose I do this, and now I have a much more efficient restaurant or small business. What's to prevent me from going back to the old kind of bulbs later? You know, when these bulbs burn out, is there incentive, or is there a rule or anything that prevents me, you know, from going back and doing it yet again?
Very practical things. Number one, the old bulbs are being phased out, so you'll be hard pressed to find an old bulb. And actually, the good news is that most of the lighting now, especially the LED lighting, will probably outlast you, and so you won't be around to change them out when they fail because of old age.
The other thing, I mean, and I know that from experience here in the studio, is that you get better light.
You do.
You get better light, and it's a cooler light. And why would you want to give that up? You know?
I'm
Right.
talking on the recycling or the waste end of it. What do you do with the bulbs that you take out? Are you going to take those, or
Yes,
what happens to those?
the contractor comes in just like you had hired him and paid, excuse me, and will dispose of the bulbs
Well,
appropriately.
that's no fuss, no muss.
That's great. So why wouldn't somebody do this, right? Oh.
It's amazing. We actually have a hard time with some people getting them to accept it.
It's unbelievable. There is a free lunch.
There is
really darn
It's actually not
close,
free,
yeah.
but overall, it's a much bigger benefit than it is a cost to society to do these free upgrades.
So it works on a governmental level.
So all they have to do is come to the website, and they're having a hard time doing that, eh?
So, and we're encouraging, and a lot of the customers that take part in this are actually approached by our certified installers, because this is an easy sell for the most part. There are occasionally those that don't want it, but if a contractor comes to your house or your business and says, you know, I'd like to upgrade you, save you on your electric bill, and it's not going to cost you anything.
Duh.
Right. You can turn that
Yeah,
down.
that's a great program.
So
Yeah.
Jim Flanagan's on the phone listening, or on the Skype, I should say, listening.
Yes.
And he's heard this, and I wonder if Jim has any questions or comments regarding this particular program. We hear about another Negawatt Moment program every week, so this one actually
It's good.
sounds
Very good.
great.
For business.
But Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, Jay, I'm glad you give me a chance to comment on this. And, you know, this program is really the perfect venue to explain why the Public Benefits Fund is needed. And, you know, we look at a bigger company with, you know, it's going to be in business for a long time. They're able to make sensible decisions and realize that, wow, this investment will pay back in a year or two. But what we find is really small businesses, they don't know if they're going to be in business after a year. So they don't want to make a big investment. So we provide not only, you know, incentives to help reduce the cost, but we also provide expertise. We have contractors that have been vetted. We have prices that we know are good, and we can provide all this expertise to a turnkey solution to provide, you know, cost-effective savings for a customer who may or may not be able to you know, has the resources to do something that a big company would do. And I really like this program. I'm glad it's successful.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, it's very easy to see how it's going to help the public. It helps the society in general, as Ray says. Well, good. I wish you well on that program, Ray.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, you guys must be up at 3 o'clock in the morning figuring this stuff out.
Has this just started, or has this been around?
No, this has been around for a while.
Okay.
Good.
All right, well, we'll have to talk later about how this can benefit ThinkTech. Okay, so let's move on to the substance of our show, the main attraction of our show. That is Jim Flanagan. So let me ask the title question to you first, Jim. Who is Jim Flanagan?
Well, okay. Let me start with, I guess,
I'm Donna Blanche.
working with energy efficiency programs and program design and policy for about 25 or 30 years. I hate to say it, but and I've worked in programs in Texas and programs in California mostly, and some in New York and Wisconsin and other states. But about 6 or 7 years ago, I was asked to help the Public Utilities Commission in Hawaii put together a portfolio of programs to be delivered by a third party. And I brought sort of my expertise and background and my engineering skills. And I eventually moved out to Hawaii for a while, and I kind of helped to run the programs. I also helped, advise the commission on policy issues about efficiency and a number of things surrounding that sort of discussion.
And you were the same guy in our legislative briefing.
Yes.
He was the only
He
one who
was.
was
He
right
was.
on the clock. Exactly.
Yes.
There aren't that many Jim Flanagans in the world.
Thank you for coming and joining us,
Yeah.
Jim. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I was really excited to get in right under the bell. I know, Jay, you're a tough I was sweating that one, and I made it like, I think 2 words after the bell enough time. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's go to the second title question. That is, what is the Public Benefits Fund anyway? And I think, for that discussion, why don't we assume that the public knows nothing? This may be a very valid assumption about the Public Benefits Fund. So what is it, and why is it important to the public?
Well, I think you're right. I think it's a little bit complex, but hopefully I can explain it in simple terms. And I think unfortunately a lot of people see this as a big program that's cost a lot of money, and they don't understand that really the way that I look at it is HECO, or our utility, can go out and buy power, and it usually costs about 15 or 20 cents a kilowatt hour, and then they mark it up and resell it to ratepayers for more. But we can also conserve energy, and the energy that's conserved in this small business program, for instance, is conserved on the order of 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Just by providing financing and education and incentives and expertise, we're able to procure energy for Hawaii ratepayers at that's about 1/10 of the cost of what it might cost to burn oil or build a power plant. So look at the PBF as really as a power plant. It's an energy efficiency power plant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's actually hard for people to wrap around that, but yes, I mean, that's the principal point of all of this. It's the most inexpensive power of all, by far.
That's the negawatt. That's why we have the megawatt moment.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now, I recall that somewhere along the line here, not too many years ago, at least in Hawaii, the whole question of efficiency was spun out of the utility and into this separate fund, which I guess is the fund we're talking about, the Hawaii Public Benefits Fund. And money came from the ratepayers to fund that fund. So the fund is funded through your electric bill, part of the rates. And then this fund is separate from the utility because it was seen as essentially a conflict of interest for the utility to be selling power on the one hand and telling you not to use it on the other hand. Right. So it's separate now. Okay, and I guess the question I would put to you is that what has happened in all these other states? Is this sweeping the country? Is it organized in the same way? You must see a larger picture on this, and I wonder if you can compare the way it happened in Hawaii with the way it happened in other places.
Well, I can comment on that, and I think all across the country we're seeing funds, utility expenditure funds. In general, they're spent by the utility to run energy efficiency programs, and that's sort of come with mixed results. Some states have been really aggressive, and California and Massachusetts, and other states have had not such great results because the utility has been reluctant, like you said, to sell energy on one hand and conserve it on the other. So some states, such as Vermont and Oregon and some other states, have taken it away from the utility and gone with this third-party approach. And I think the thing that has worked really well for us is it gives us a lot more freedom to come up with more innovative programs than we had under HECO in the past. So we have a lot more flexibility. And I'll really say, with my experience, is that Hawaii is definitely in the top tier of states as far as the sophistication and the type of programs they're operating and the amount of savings they're getting. And I think the interesting thing is they're working in Hawaii, where energy usage is already, it's one of the lowest, it is actually the lowest electricity consumption per capita in the whole country. So we're starting with a very low usage, and we're even squeezing more out. So I'm happy with the way the portfolio is working and the program is going. And we've been doing it now since 2009, so about 6 years.
Ray, I think he's talking about you.
Well, yeah, well, I was just going to make the point. It's not just about the program, because there are other components. And I'd like for Jim, if he could explain a little bit more about the other components of the program that provide the oversight and the assurance that they're getting, that the customers are getting what they paid for.
I'd like to punctuate the discussion, however, with a short break. And so we'll come back and Jim can discuss that. This is ThinkTech Hawaii. We're talking about Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about what is the Public Benefits Fund anyway, with Jim Flanagan, the Public Benefits Fee Administrator Contract Manager. We'll be right back after this short break.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week, we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Oh, you cannot? I just want to know.
Okay, we're back, we're live, we're here, we're not kidding, and here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. What is the Hawaii Benefits Fund anyway, with Jim Flanagan? And we have two co-hosts, Sharon Moriwaki and Ray Starling. And during the break, Sharon was expressing herself, as she is often want to do. And so let's hear from Sharon now with the question.
I had teed up another
Okay,
question
no,
before.
sorry.
All right,
Okay,
Jim was going to tell us.
Okay, stop everything.
Ray,
Let's take another break. And
Ray,
let's get your question first.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted Jim to talk a little bit about what the program consists of, because it's not just the contractor that they've hired, us, the Leidos engineering company, to do the program, but there are other players in there that make it certain that,
Here in Hawaii,
that the customers are getting their money's worth.
We need to know that, yeah.
So, Jim?
Aloha, welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii. My name
still
is
have you
Josh
there?
Green.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm the host.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me touch on that. It's a great point, Ray. And I think the important thing here is that in the worldly ways of the commission, they've set up a pretty good deal. And what we have is, in addition to me, who oversees the contract, we have a third-party evaluation team who goes and looks to see if the energy that Ray and his team have claimed to have saved actually occurred. So we actually interview customers. We go out to on-site and we look to see that lights are installed and motors are working. We do focus groups, and we also do telephone surveys. And what they do is they're totally unrelated to me. I mean, I oversee their contract, but they're totally unrelated to Leidos and Ray. And they do a strict verification to guarantee that the savings that we claim are savings that HECO can rely upon for load generation planning, and that the utility ratepayers are getting what they paid for. So it's just like a financial audit, which we also do every year. We have both a financial audit and an energy audit, and both of these come back, and we use that information to help run the contract, and we decide whether to hit Ray with a rolled up newspaper or to give him a reward for hitting his goals. And it's a good, effective way for us to manage this program, and I'm really happy with it.
So from what you say, it sounds like it's working well.
Yeah, I think this, in private industry, taking close measurements and verifying them and using them to help run the program works great. And it works great in federal government and state government because it allows us to keep an eye on how well we're progressing and how far we've gotten for our 2030 clean energy goals, which is important to totally tabulate and account for all those energy savings.
Ray, you had more of that?
Well, and to top it off, the contract is coming up for a recompete. So there'll be an opportunity for other people to come in and compete for the next version of the contract going forward. So we're going to have to prove ourselves, as we do every year. We're going to have to prove ourselves ultimately worthy of continuing on with the contract.
How long are these contracts?
Well, this one started in 2009.
So,
And so we're going to be recompeting. Jim knows more about the when than I do, but sometime around September, we're expecting to have the competition or submit the proposals and have somebody on board March or April, I guess, of 2016.
Okay, coming up
That's
soon.
great. Yeah.
So this is a big year.
Yeah.
I
I say have somebody on board. I think they would actually come on board and start the program in July 1st of 2016, and we would have some carryover through the end of 2016 with them to kind of get them up to speed. But they're not going to need that actually, because hopefully we're.
Yeah, Jim, I hope you're listening. They're not going to need any of that. This will be fine.
Jim, I was asking the bigger picture of, when it first started, this was the whole legislation that said it was important to decouple because of the conflict of interest, and whether there's any way of assessing, had it not happened, would we have, and I guess the proof is in the pudding that we have had much better energy efficiency in the state, and in fact, it's been a very successful program in meeting our goals. But I'm just wondering whether you keep track of that as to the bigger picture of having a separate program than having it part of the utility.
Well, it's hard to compare, the level of effectiveness. I think what we do see is we're offering a lot more variety of programs, a lot more robust programs, and having this yearly verification, I think, is we've been much more critical about what we accept and what we reject. So I think if we look at some of the HECO savings claims from the older programs, we would have rejected a lot of those because a lot of them were, we've updated our estimates of how they work. So I think given HECO credit, as a portfolio, we have a lot more latitude to kind of propose new programs, and so we sort of have a lot more freedom. And because everything isn't under a docket and overseen by the commission, it is, but we have a little bit more freedom in the portfolio. So I can say that the portfolio is more robust, but I can't give you a number or a metric that says how much more we have. But we are meeting our goals, so that's the important thing. Every year we've met our goals for the last 5 years. So.
And over the last 5 years, we have actually saved verified savings to the customers of over $2 billion.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
You heard it here on
Whoa.
ThinkTech.
Yes.
Ooh.
So
That's a lot of
we're
bread.
we're very proud of that. That's a big
huge.
number.
It's a big number, yeah.
Through these various programs, including the one you're talking about
Exactly.
today.
So even with payouts and the
Even-
incentives, that
exactly,
this $2 billion.
exactly.
And that's not just your rendition of it. Jim has been checking on that.
Yeah, and they've had another group come in, third-party verified.
Right. Yeah.
And let me point out that that's over the life of the measures installed.
Yes,
So
yes.
if they install like a chiller, it's going to be a big air conditioning equipment in a downtown building. Well, that's going to be delivering savings for 20 years. So we look at the savings from that and we bring it all forward. So it's a large number, but yeah, it's all accruing to bill payers over the next few years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good clarification. It's, as you say, when you put in something, it actually continues to save over time. The $2 billion would be over that time.
So over the time of the contract or over the time of the
life of
equipment?
The equipment,
Okay.
right.
So it could, as Jim said, it could be, the life of the chiller could be
Right.
20 years or whatever,
Correct.
so, okay. Well, this is really, it becomes a science. And I was going to ask you, Jim, it seems to me that in the last 5 or 6 years, there have been many changes in energy, many changes in efficiency, many changes in technology to measure efficiency. So what has the evolution been like? I mean, it's not just that it's more careful on the metrics, but what has it been like over this period of time for you And for Hawaii Energy, you can answer that too, Ray. You know, how has energy efficiency changed during the life of this contract?
Actually,
have the goals changed, for example?
I pointed this out a little bit in our ledge discussion, and the thing I was really excited about is the transition that we're undergoing right now, because in the beginning, you know, we just kind of provided incentives for replacing widgets and gadgets, which, you know, was a fairly simple way to do things. But what we realized over time is we need to start training, you know, building engineers, architects, people who are running and managing all these buildings, so they have the tools they need to sort of make decisions about their energy bills and budgets, and so they understand what they're doing. So we've added a bunch of programs in market transformation to kind of educate and provide those sort of perspectives. But we've also are working with UH and with the community colleges to provide curricula to develop programs for engineers and architects and building managers at the local colleges to allow them to kind of learn and make more progress. And I think that was done the last couple of years. And this year, for the first time, we really are taking on a lot more in that we're starting to work on demand response and getting customers used to the idea that if they can conserve energy like during peak times, it can help us assimilate more renewables. So we're doing a lot of pilot programs with demand response and with smart meters, and we've really expanded the types of things that Hawaii Energy is responsible for.
I got a question on it, but I want to, you had something on this?
No, that Jim covered that.
Okay, a couple of questions come to mind. Number one is I mean, I admire Derek Sonoda. Jim, you must know who that is.
Oh, of course we know. The heart of the program.
He's a wonderful guy, really. And he's a good teacher. And he's a sort of magnetic personality. And, you know, you couldn't find anybody better to do the training and all that. But how can you measure the metrics of a training program? How can you tell whether that's in the 2 billion or not? Ray, Jim?
I'll let Jim knows all about that.
That's a big question. You know, what we look at is overall the portfolio is cost effective. So we can budget some money for these training programs, and our ultimate goal is that they lead to savings in 4 or 5 years. So we've had our evaluators look at this and compare this to other training and education programs, and they have made some tweaks and adjustments. And what we've done is gone back after a year and say, hey, you know, you went through this training, did you do anything different? So we don't have an exact number, but we know it's delivering savings, and that's kind of what we, you know, want to continue with, because I think it's mandatory if we're going to get to the goals that we have over 20 years to have this kind of education and level of sophistication in the state, in the neighbor islands, and in Oahu. So Ray might want to add more.
Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I just want to know, who are you training? Are you training the installers? Are you training individuals? You know, how extensive is your training, and how are you targeting to get the biggest bang for your buck?
Run the gamut. So we have a building energy manager training specifically for coursework that building energy managers can take to getting advanced certificates. And then we have, you know, financial programs for CFOs and controllers of large organizations so that they can understand where their money's going energy-wise and why it makes sense to invest in efficiency. And then we have down to folks like Helen Y, who you may have met, who goes out to the communities and works with, you know, hundreds of employees. I went to a training she did at the Mauna Kea in the Big Island, and there are 300 or 400 folks there. And, you know, it was education about how your shower, you know, if you have an electric water heater, uses way more energy than like a radio or a TV. And a lot of people, you know, didn't know a lot of these things. So, you know, it's everything from individual residential customers to the energy manager at University of Hawaii, who, you know, we work with folks at large resort hotels and UH and the military to provide, you know, training and education there as well. Was that the question, I think?
And is it free, or, you know, is there a cost? When it's free,
all of that is paid for by the
program
fund. Yes.
Oh, wow,
Public
that's
Benefits
great.
Fund.
Well, I think some of them, though, we like to get a small contribution, because if they have a little bit of skin in the game, they tend to show up and be a little more involved. I mean,
that's true. Some of the certifications to make sure that we don't just have people rolling in, because these are very costly programs. We will fund most of it, but make the individual pay a bit.
Well, this all came up in our conversation in response to my question about how things have changed. And tell me if I'm right, what I'm getting is that in the past few years, during the life of the contract, you have elected more training. You have found that it's one thing to have the technology, but you have to train people to use it.
Exactly.
So therefore, you have found that you need to increase the amount of training under the. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess that's going to continue. I mean, what I get, and not only from today's discussion, but from the nano megawatt moment.
Nano moment.
Nano, that would be something. When we get to nano, it'd be the megawatt moment over the years is that you guys are always looking for pockets where energy is not efficient.
Yes.
And trying to stomp them out, you know.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so whenever you find one, you create a program to fix that. And one of the programs is going to be parts of the economy where people are not aware. And then if you can make them aware, then you can deliver the program to them, and then you can stomp it out in that area.
Yeah, I think you just summed it up very well. There are pockets that you would think would understand better than they do, and when we get in there, we find and we get comments back. Oh wow, I did not know that, and so we're continuing to make improvements in those areas and go after. We'll use one group that we find and kind of branch off and go to a different group and go where the action is, so to speak.
And that could be consumer groups, but it could also be small business groups. It could be anywhere in the landscape.
Absolutely.
Well, it's good you're putting it
Well,
into training, the training programs into the university and the community college, because that becomes part of the
Absolutely,
program.
yes.
I want to ask one more question that springs out of what Jim was saying, and that is, he talked about smart grid and smart meters and all that. And so it strikes me that there's an intersection here, an intersection between what the fund is doing, what energy efficiency is doing in order to make the whole system more efficient, and what the utility is doing in order to make the whole system more efficient, presumably. And the holy grail is the smart grid. Where is it? I don't see it yet. I'm waiting. But isn't there an intersection where you're both kind of working on the same devices, the same things, the same systems, in order to achieve the same result? And assuming I'm right, you can disagree with me, but assuming I'm right, how do you coordinate those efforts between the fund and the utility? I think it's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Jim?
Jim?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah.
Ray wants you to answer that one.
I think a little bit of what you're speaking towards is, typically the utility holds all of its billing data very dear and close, and so there's a reluctance to share that data. Normally, utilities run the programs, so they run their smart grid-related efficiency programs, but we're trying to separate that and start up some new programs, just as HECO is learning about how its smart meters work and what it does. So there's a lot of overlap going on at the moment, and I think the other kind of question you're hinting at is, with smart grid and smart metering come a lot more opportunities with demand response. And, customers, for once, have information about, how much electricity at varying times of the day, whether the price can be different. And I think there's a big role for the public benefits fee, why they're already out there working with customers to real cost effectively say, hey, while we're putting in this water heater, why don't we put in a smart controller, and you can get $10 a month or some feedback in order to participate in a program, because the expense is recruiting the customer and getting out to the site. So might as well take advantage of it and put it in a way that allows us to not have to curtail any renewables and allow the state to keep marching towards its goals.
Okay, this opens up, the whole question of what you do, what the fund does, which guys do looking for efficiency, when you find something in the utility which is not efficient. And, there it presents itself. And I know that probably hasn't happened very much so far because you've been busy with other parts of the marketplace. But as we go forward, and I'd like to talk about that right after the break, there's other fish to fry going forward through the end of this contract and into the next contract about using the new equipment and working with the utility and making some kind of, technological partnership on how the utility can become more effective, more efficient. Let's take a short break. It's Jim Flanagan, Public Benefits Fee Administrator Contract Manager, who works for the PUC and oversees Hawaii Energy. And we have Hawaii Energy here, too, in the form of Ray Starling. And we have Sharon Moriwaki, who, with Ray Starling, are the co-hosts. Is that all Turkish taffy enough for you? We'll be right back. You'll see.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon. And on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Okay, guess where we are? We're in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here at the core of downtown Honolulu in Pioneer Plaza at the ThinkTech Studios. We're talking about what is the Hawaii Benefits Fund anyway, with Jim Flanagan, Public Benefits Fee Administrator Contract Manager. And we're toward the end of our show now, so we always get to what Sharon always wants to get to. We always get to what Sharon always wants to get to anyway, which is namely the challenges and the future. Okay, so I put the first question to you in her name and in her place instead. You know, Jim, what are the challenges here? As you see it going forward, you know, as the thing evolves and you learn more, and you know, you see different pockets emerging, different relationships between the technology and the marketplace. Where is this going? The whole business of the benefits fund and technology for efficiency.
Well, like I touched on, alluded to earlier, is that I think the efficiency
Aloha, my
part we've
name is
got
Paul
a pretty
Jackson,
good
better
handle
known as
on. And we're delivering the savings and we're doing a good job. It's going to be more challenging and more expensive, but I think we understand the route. And it's always going to be more cost effective than building new power plants. So, but I'm comfortable there. I think, like we touched on a little bit earlier, is that the demand response part, you know, it's a complicated situation, and there's tons of different solutions in order to get where we want to go. And sorting through those is going to be a lot of work. And you know, I'm really happy, you know, that Governor Ige recently touched on how more support from the public PUC in order to staff up to sort of help provide guidance on who's going to do what for demand response and what makes sense will be really valuable going forward. And I think the near-term path that we've chosen for the PBF is to continue running some pilots, investigating what we can provide and how well it works and how cost-effective it is. And hopefully what we learn over the next year or two will help inform our decisions going forward for 5 years, 10 years, and up until 2030. So that's kind of our near-term take on it. And Ray may have something more to add to that.
No, I think that summed it up really well, and that's what we're looking forward to. We've got a charged up group over there that loves challenge.
We can attest to that.
Okay.
Come in here on Wednesdays with
That's
the
right.
megawatt
That's
moment.
right.
And,
They love what they're doing, and we've had the great benefit of having Jim. PUC made a great choice there. They've had good EM&V providers that have come in and checked the numbers and given us some good guidance. And at the end of the day, I think the program is well formed, and we'd like to continue with the contract. So we're going to really be fighting hard to be competitive going forward.
Well, you've done a great job. I mean, you're a hardworking guy, and you've attended to this every day. And it'd be hard to find anybody like you, Ray, honestly.
So, Jim, are you going to stay on and
I'm
oversee?
saying that for everybody's benefit, including our listening
I want a
audience.
clip for
Yeah,
my wife.
So I want to know that Jim's going to continue to oversee. I mean, we're going to have a new RFP going out, you know, getting procurement, and hopefully we will continue to see Hawaii Energy at the helm. But this contract management seems to be a very important part of the program, that you actually set goals, you monitor, you make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do. I'm just wondering whether your contract continues as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. My contract, I've got at least another, I think, a little over a year and a half on it. So I will be, let me put that aside a second. So I will be definitely here for another year and a half. And at that point, it's up to the Public Utilities Commission what they decide to do. But I plan on being engaged as long as they'll have me.
Great.
Well, you know,
Done a good job.
so, you know, things are changing in Hawaii. The models are changing in Hawaii. Gosh, I mean, there's so many possibilities for dramatic change here. You know, utilities being acquired. Everything is on the table these days.
Everything, yeah.
I mean, you can't think of a single idea that isn't being fleshed out in our newspaper, including the co-op now out of Kauai, from Kauai to the Big Island. I want to see how that works.
And Jay, I'd also add, if I could, is the onset of electric vehicles, to me, is where a lot of opportunities lie in how we manage that load, how it gets integrated, and how we encourage people to make the right decisions about the electric vehicles. And we you know, the PBF is going to take a little bit of a role in that, but I'm really looking at that as one of the wild cards that we're going to be able to use to our advantage going forward.
So as far as the fund is concerned, it seems to me that there are changes happening. There are changes, big changes afoot in one way or another. But one thing is constant. It's the fund. The fund has to go on. The fund efficiency must be part of the equation no matter what happens at the utility level. So therefore, in this time of potential dramatic change, the fund has to be flexible, but the fund also has to be constant. The fund has, ready for this? The fund has to be constant in its flexibility. You can quote me on that. Comments, anyone?
Okay, we will.
Agreed. There must be a fund, and it must continue, that's for sure.
Yeah, so what are the challenges? We didn't really get to that. In the next 2 or 3 minutes, can you tell me what you feel, you know, has to be addressed in order to keep flexible and keep constant?
Well, I will say, you know, going forward, is we've investigated how other third-party states like Oregon and Vermont and stuff look at manage their funds. And the one thing that we did learn is that we can allow a little more latitude. I mean, we had a lot of specific criteria for Ray and his guys to meet as far as how much they could spend on this or that or admin or advertising. And we realized that other folks have a lot more latitude. I think the overall goal is, as long as the portfolio is cost effective and does well, then it's really up to the portfolio manager, Ray, and Hawaii Energy to decide, well, where do you put the money that makes the most sense? And so I think next year and into the rebid, we're going to look a little more freedom to be flexible, like you said, Jay.
Okay, we're almost at the end where we get a summary from Ray, as always. I'd like to add one other thought. You know, we have the Negawatt Moment coming on. We have these devices and programs. One of these days, and you can comment on this if it hasn't happened already, I expect we're going to hear about a gizmo that we can put in our house that will directly connect with the power coming into the house, and that will give us the opportunity to do demand control in our house by ourselves automatically. To say, you know, we don't need it, this and that, because you're not here. And we need this and that because you are here, and just sort of watch me and make sure that everything I do in my house is. So the question is that something that would come out of the fund, you know, be proposed as a program by the fund, or is that something that would come out of the utility? And who gets to do it first? Anyway, Ray.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that is on the horizon, and it will be something that obviously some entrepreneur will develop, and hopefully we'll be around to help pick the right one, because you need something uniform. You wouldn't want a lot of different ones connected up to the smart meters.
Right.
You'd
Uniformity is,
right.
yeah.
But I think that's coming. I think what you just described, to have somebody kind of give you a warning, you know, like the smoke detector. This one will say, all right, you're going over your limit, or you know, in 5 minutes, the pricing is going to change, and you're going to pay a lot of money if you're going to do the dishes then.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that's real. That will happen, and I hope that we will have a part in it. But it will be a meshing between the energy efficiency side, the customer side, and the utility side as well. So we've got our work cut out for us.
Hey, Jim, I mean, you know, this is a great career. You know, if I was a younger man, I'd be looking for your job. You know?
Yeah, well, I get to work with great folks, that's for sure. Ray and his team certainly have been a joy to work with the last 5 or 6 years, so I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Flanagan, Public Benefits Fee Administrator, Contract Manager, and Sharon Moriwaki and Ray Starling, thank you all for this discussion in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, where we should be on a Wednesday afternoon, where we've been discussing who in the world is Jim Flanagan anyway, and what in the world is
We
the
still
Hawaii
don't
Public
know that.
Benefits Fund.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you all.
Aloha.
Thank you, Jim.
Aloha.
Aloha.